Okay, so part 3 of our noun classes. So I'm still going to go through the whole introduction part just because we have a few new ones too, so that when we can go over the different important components so that everybody is on the same page when we start looking at the individual noun classes. So since I've done this like 20 times, who wants to tell me what noun classes are? You don't have to be fancy, just how you understand it is fine.
They're like groups of nouns and based on their characteristics.
Yes.
And
all right.
they make life interesting for people who are learning Kiswahili.
That's one way to put it. Thank you very much. Yeah, so in Swahili, every single name now is put in a category. And this category is going to have a set of characteristics. And these characteristics determine how you use those words in a sentence. Okay, so, and that's what really noun classes lessons are about. We are trying to learn how each group behaves so that when we see it in a sentence, you automatically know, oh, this is supposed to behave like this, or these things are changing in this manner because they belong to a different noun class. So it shapes everything in the Swahili grammar. So they determine how you use a verb, that is an action. For instance, I have an interesting sentence here. I have never seen a goat fall, but just in case it fell, it would look something different. The goat fell versus the tree fell versus a cat down the tree. So the first one is mbuzi lianguka. Mbuzi belongs to a different noun class. So it looks different. Mti lianguka. Mti and mbuzi belong to 2 different noun classes. So that noun is going to look different. And then niliukata mti, so the object infix is changed. Do not worry, I'm just showing you how the different verbs are behaving depending on the different noun class. Also, it shapes how we talk about possession. I know when you're starting out, you're like, okay, so why on earth? I just said, let me actually write this down because I hear this question a lot from my beginners. So they will hear 1 minute, they'll say, jina langu. And then the next time they'll hear mtoto wangu. So they're like, sounds similar. Both of them in English mean mine. Why on earth is one starting with la and then the next wa? So this is how noun classes change different things. So if you ever notice that something is almost the same but not quite, look at the noun that you're working with. That will change how things are behaving. So I gave you my example of my goat is mbuzi wangu, my cup is kikombe changu. So kikombe is a different noun class, so it's going to start with different A. So kikombe is a noun class 7 and 8, and that's not our business today. I am just showing you differences. Also, another thing, it shapes how we do the associative of. Now, we want to say the teacher's name, okay, versus the teacher's bag. Okay, so jina la mwalimu as opposed to mkoba wa mwalimu. So in English, this should technically be the same thing, but because these 2 things belong to different noun classes, the wa is going to be different from the la. Okay, so that's why sometimes you're like, my goodness, why is it ya, wa, la? The next time it's cha. What is going on? This is what is going on in noun classes. So you can see why you really can't escape noun classes. And even though it's a huge topic and we've been doing it, this is like part 3 of it. It's important because once you get this, I promise you, everything else becomes so much easier. Sawa sawa. All right. So like we've talked about in the past, Swahili noun classes are pretty much 2 groups. The first group is living things. And living things are things that can move from point A to point B. I know I've said this before, but just because a tree scientifically is living, in Swahili, it's not a living thing because it can't move from point A to point B. Okay, how about body parts? They're part of a living thing. But unless your arm is going to leave your body and go somewhere else by itself, it is not a living thing, okay? So things that can move themselves, that is animals and people, those ones will always be in noun class 1. And that's what I mean, noun class 1 and 2. And we already covered that. If you haven't watched it, if you're part of LSN, you can always go watch the replays. If you're not part of LSN, just go to my YouTube channel and I have the past webinar replays there. You can watch them there. Okay, and then the second part is non-living things. And this is where it gets interesting, because now we start breaking them up into their different characteristics. So from noun class 3, that's what we did, 3 and 4 last time. We looked at the different noun classes. Let's just see, just as a noun class 3 and 4 is what we did. Let's see, 3 and 4, and we looked at its individual characteristics. So from now henceforth, we're going to be covering the non-living classes, 3 and 4. Today is 5 and 6. Next time we'll do 7 and 8, and so on and so forth. So, and just so you know, noun classes are categorized in different ways. I like numbers. Sometimes I'll call them 3 and 4. Sometimes you'll see them the subject prefix ways, that is the wa, or me. Now today we are doing the G, ma. And what are these? These are simply subject prefixes that these nouns take. But it's not always reliable because, for instance, in the noun class 5 that we're going to be talking about, not all nouns start with J-I, so it can get very confusing. But the most reliable is the, I mean, not subject, the noun prefix, subject prefix one. So, U, E, so our, that is the noun class 1. And then we have U, E, noun class 2, 3 and 4. And then we have Li, yeah, for noun class 5 and 6. Again, thou shalt not worry. These are just categorizations. If you see this, don't panic. Oh my goodness, why did she call it 3 and 4? And now I'm seeing it as me. It's just different ways of labeling these classes. Sawa? Okay, any question up to this point? Do we know what we're talking about? Okay, sawa, let's continue. All right, these are the things that we're talking about. Nouns, how we label things. I know this is grammar, and the last time maybe you did grammar was not very recently. That's why I'm going through these terms, just so when I use them later, it's not throwing you off. So verbs, actions, subject, the person who did the action in a sentence. It doesn't have to be a person, it's just an actor. So for instance, if this cup fell, that cup is the actor in that sentence. So that's what we call subject. And then object is the recipient of the action. If mother is feeding the child is the recipient, the child would be the object. And why is that important? Okay. It's important because we have these things called prefixes and infixes. What are they? For non-living things, these are simply the it, the Swahili it. So in something like the tree fell. Now, this literally means the tree, it fell. In Swahili, that's how it would be rendered. The tree, it fell. So, mti ulianguka. So this prefix here is the it. Okay, English doesn't quite work like that, but that's how best I can explain what these prefixes and infixes are. Now, let's see about that tree as an object. The man cut the tree. So in Swahili, this is literally the man cut the tree down. So it would be mtu aliukata mti. So this tree here, this is here. That's what that infix is. So it's simply a way to represent the subject in a verb and then object in a verb. English doesn't do that, but Swahili, we need those little letters to capture who is doing what within a verb. Because if you just said kata, people are like, okay, that is cut, but what is going on? And if you said mtu kata mti, now you sound like a cave person. Man cut tree, you know? So that wouldn't sound right. So that's why we need to capture both the person, a, when they cut it, and the u to represent this tree over here. So that is why all of these things are very important. Okay, now we've talked about the prefixes and infixes. Now, what on earth are noun prefixes? Well, Swahili loves, loves, loves to match things. So if I said a pretty girl, it would be msichana, rembo. Why? Because this is and that is It likes to match. Not always, but for the most part, it likes to match. If I wanted to say a pretty chair, I will say kiti, ki, rembo. Why? Kiti and ki, rembo. So that is the noun prefix. It shows you what noun class that adjective is trying to describe. So for instance, if I didn't see kitty, I just saw kirembo. If somebody was writing and then they erased and they just said kirembo, in my mind, I'll automatically know that the word we are describing belongs to noun class 7 because that started with a ki. Okay, so the prefix tells me what we are describing. If I saw even if I don't have anything, I'll either think about noun class 1 or noun class 3. Because I'm like, okay, I don't have the noun, but this prefix tells me that that's what I'm describing. Okay, and then everybody's nemesis, demonstratives. I have not found one person who likes these things, but they're so important. They're very important. So Swahili has a very interesting way of describing space. There's this, everybody knows that, okay? In English, there's simply this and that. That should have been enough, but not in Swahili. Swahili has that, but with an implication of over there. That is, it's far from both of you. So let's say, oh, did you see that game? So that game is no longer there, but you're referring to it. So you would use that. So usually, like the ninja tricks I taught you last time, there's this, but the that always ends with an o, and the that over there always ends with a le. That's how you know it. Okay, so it's simply that, but it's either that close to the person you're speaking to or that over there. Okay, all right, so that, and each noun class will have a different beginning. So last time we did 3 and 4, and for 3 and 4 it was who, and then huo, and then ule, and then for noun class 4 that was he, hio, and ile. So note, they both end with an o and they both end with an ele. So, but like I was telling you the last time, if you learn the first one, your life is much simpler. So you simply take this and add it to that and to form that, ule. And then you take this, add a le, and you form the third one. So instead of trying to memorize everything, memorize the first one. So if you memorize the first one, you simply come here, you have the who. I want to create the second one. I simply turn the last word into o, and I have that. And then I want to make the third one. I simply take the last u and add the le, and I have it. And then for the next one, let's try again. It started with the e. So this one is that you just, because you can't say hio by itself, just for pronunciation, that's why it turned into a yo. And then ile. Okay, so that's just a little ninja trick that you can apply to all of your noun classes. Now that we have talked a lot about the introduction, how about we go to noun class 5 and apply all of these awesome things that we have covered. All right. Sawa sawa. So noun class 5 and 6, Liya, belongs to the non-living class. So here's the trick. If you come across a word that behaves like this, but it's a living thing, if you look it up in the dictionary and you saw it's a living thing, it doesn't belong here, even if it meets everything. Okay, so nouns in this class, they start with a consonant, very important, and then they are followed immediately by a vowel. These notes are from noun class 3. I don't know why what they're still doing here. Hang on. Do not pay attention to that. That was from the previously. So it starts with a consonant and then followed by a vowel. Now here's a caveat. Its plural has to start with a ma or a me, because you're going to see later another noun class that has the same characteristics, but the plural is different. So for you to know whether this noun for real belongs to noun class 5 or 6, first it has to be a non-living thing. Second, it has to start with a consonant followed by a vowel. And finally, its plural has to start with a ma or a me. Okay, now let's look at a few examples to bring this home. Jengo. This is a building. It starts with a J, followed immediately by a consonant. Okay. And then we have dirisha. That's a window. Starts immediately by a consonant, followed by, start with a consonant, followed immediately by a vowel. Darasa, that is a classroom. Starts with a consonant, followed by a vowel. Laura is a name. Gina, J-I. Hall. Oh, there you go. Hall is Jumba. I don't know, I just wrote Jumba there and then left it. 1 second. So Jumba starts with a J, followed by a consonant. Now who wants to guess what the plural for that is going to be? Jengo?
Majenga.
Majengo.
Majengo. Vizuri sana. Dirisha?
Madirisha.
Madirisha.
Vizuri. So, darasa?
Madarasa.
Madarasa.
Majumba? Oh.
Oh, I know it. Majumba.
So we have Majumba. And then names?
Magina.
Magina.
Magina. Very good. So that is what we have here. See, it's very simple. Let's see another one. Tooth. Tooth is?
Gina.
Gino. So,
Meno.
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 very good. That was a trick one. So, Meno.
Meno.
Oh, Meno.
There are a few that drop the J and then they just take another one is Jiko. It just turns straight into Meko. Yeah, those are just little, and that's why in my description, I said they start with an MA or an ME. Usually when they start with an ME, they don't take the J. They just go straight to the last vowels, okay? Majengo, Madirisha, Madarasa. So up to this point, do you think you can pick out nouns that belong to this noun class from a random pool of words? You know what?
I think so.
Okay, so that's excellent to hear because this is what we're going to do now. So what I'm going to do